one color looked like two. How did that go? Piece of cake, right? As a matter of fact, originally I thought I only made one video. And it was typically I usually only demonstrate the value scale and I let students go, but then I discovered I had two more videos. So I decided to post all of them, and if you followed the videos very carefully, you have it. I mean, I've given you the answers to that project, so this should be an easy A. It really should be. I'm a little concerned with what I saw with yours. But do you have any questions? Did it make sense? Sir?
I think it was tertiary or analogous.
Analogous,
analogous. Yeah. I was just like, for that one, would you pick out of the three colors, the tertiary, would you pick a color right beside it, or would you go to the complete very side set?
Aha. Can somebody tell me what is the difference between tertiary and analogous? David?
Isn't like tertiary they're less saturated colors? Like if you have yellow and violet, it's one of the colors.
What is a tertiary color made of? Yes.
Two direct complements mixed with.
Yes. As a matter of fact, a tertiary color always is a result of two complements or three primary colors. Okay? Now, the question you ask, an analogous situation is colors that are next door to each other. You can have an analogous set in a tertiary situation. For example, if I take the hue circle, yellow, magenta, and the cyan, and I mix all of these together, I have a tertiary color, right? But if I also take that tertiary color and do a composition with these adjoining colors, it's also analogous too. Because analogous pertains to neighbors that go one way, tint, shade, and complement, but they're just neighbors to each other. So it can work both ways, and I think, did you post on Facebook?
No, sir.
Somebody did, where they had tertiary and analogous, and it was the same color palette, and that's what got me thinking, like, oh, yeah, actually, that is right, okay? So, your project, which I gave you, I absolutely handed to you, wrapped it in a box for you as a gift, was that now you were able to make one color look like two colors. And so that color, which was the same, looks like two different colors, correct? Simple, yes? Okay. Your homework is, and now, I keep repeating, I gave you the answer, I gave you the answer, I gave you the structure. But nothing in this world is ever free, is it? There's a price you're going to pay. So, because I gave this to you, you are now qualified to do the next project, which is going to be due in your final portfolio. You're not turning it in on Canvas. Adobe Illustrator, your artwork size of 11 by 8 and 1/2, and your palette is CMYK. And now, what I want you to do is make two colors look like one. Two totally different colors look like one. The solution to this is in this structure. The solution to this is in this structure. As a matter of fact, I'm even going to show you examples so that you could study them and understand, try to figure out how to be able to get that, okay? In order to do that, I'm going to tell you a story. and I'll see if I can make this story shorter than what I did before, because it just went on too long. But when I first started teaching color, I was kind of really raw, had no idea what to teach, how to teach it, although I had been working with color for a long time. I was very much of the thinking, you go to school, you learn out of a book, you kind of learn that way. And so in prepping for my first class in teaching color, I, asked colleagues, friends, professors, I'm gonna teach a color class, is there a book I should read? Is there a book I should teach from? And in color education, there are three major people, major voices, influences of color education. And one of them is a man, artist by the name of Joseph Albers, spelled Joseph. Mr. Albers, who's no longer living, was known as the sort of the great grandfather of color education. This is him here. And he had a remarkable past, a remarkable history. He was born in Germany and went to a school called the Bauhaus in Germany, and because of the German War, he fled Germany, and actually, let me back up. In the Bauhaus, he studied in the Bauhaus, and he studied with very famous people, Kandinsky, a lot of Walter Gropius, a lot of really influential artists. To understand the Bauhaus at that time was this school of thinking that pretty much wiped the table clean of traditional education and was a whole different way of thinking. And so Albers learned traditional color from these major artists and then was asked to teach at the Bauhaus. The German War happened, and he fled Germany, moved to Chicago, where they established an American Bauhaus in Chicago. From there, I think it was a few years that it lasted, and then the Bauhaus migrated to the South. There was a school called the Black Mountain School in South Carolina, I believe, which was a temporary residence for the Bauhaus where Albers was and taught color. He ended up leaving the Bauhaus, or the Bauhaus in South Carolina got dismantled, and moved to Yale. He moved to New Haven, Connecticut, where he taught color in the graduate program at Yale. And it was his color teaching that was probably the most influential in education, art and design education. And to give you an example of Mr. Albers, and I was fortunate enough to study under people who studied at Yale with Joseph Albers. And so what's so interesting about the way Albers taught and what he taught, if you think I create headaches and agita for you with my projects, he was even worse. What he would do, and to give you an example, is this project, which I've carefully placed as your final project, the end of the semester, because you have all of this knowledge and understanding and structure. This project was actually his first day of class project at Yale. So imagine being in his color class and you have no formal background, and Professor Albers says, okay class, everybody, your assignment is to make two colors look like one, bring it to class next week, see ya, okay? So now you're on your own having to figure out. And the thing is you don't have paints, you're not working with paints in Yale, you're not working with the computer because it's prior to technology. At Yale, what they provided you with, which is really how I was taught in my program, was you would buy a box of colored papers, and there were about 400 or 500 sheets of different colored papers, and you'd put the papers out, and you'd choose a color, and you'd sort of cut them and place them, and you would do all these different color exercises until you got the solution of two colors look like one. But he would never tell you how to do it, where to do it, the number counting thing never happened, okay? And so his course was very much like that. Now, you might know of Albers's work because when you go to a museum, you'll see something similar to this. He is known for painting these squares on squares. And it's a lot of his, these paintings previous to this class, if you went to a museum and seen an Albers painting, maybe at the Atlanta Museum, your immediate response might be, it's a square, Anybody can paint a square on a square on a square. Are you kidding me? Give me a break, But that's all he pretty much painted were squares on squares. And so on a superficial level, you could look at his work and go like, this is ridiculous. But on a different level, you could see how intensive he was in looking and teaching color. So the reason I bring him up, because when I was preparing to teach a class, I was told, well, if you're going to teach color, you have to teach from the book, The Interaction of Color by Joseph Albers. So I buy this book, and it's in black and white, some color, but primarily black and white. And I read it and hated it, didn't get it, didn't understand it, didn't know how the hell was I supposed to teach from this book and make students read it, and didn't get it, just didn't get it. My first class in teaching color was at a school called Parsons School of Design in New York City, which gave me the opportunity to use their library. And so I'm in the library doing color research, and the librarian says, oh, you're teaching color, do you know about the interaction of color? And I'm like, yes, I have the book, I don't get it, it's horrible. And he says, no, this is not what you should be working with. The actual book, Interaction of Color, is this book that Albers created at Yale. Here it is. And what it is it's this huge box here. There's this huge box that has these big cards, color cards, and a little book that has the narrative. And that little book is what this little book is. But the real chunk of this book, the box, is about this high, this big, and again this high. So it's huge, And when you open it up, you have all these incredible cards that open up, and they're about like this big. And it's phenomenal. And because I worked at that college, I was able to check out this huge book and take it upstairs to my classroom. We'd open up the cards and we would read it. It was amazing. It just opened up my world. And so I became enamored. I became obsessed with this book. I needed this book. I needed to have it. And for decades, I had placed myself on waiting lists with rare book collectors, dealers, because I needed to buy this book. And at the time, the book sold for, it was a lot of money. It sold for about $300 or $400. In the 60s, they only produced 300 of them. Each card was individually silk screened. I mean, there was a lot of work that goes into these. And there were only 300, so it's a really rare book. And I'm proud to say that I actually now have this book in my collection. It was given to me by a colleague of mine that I used to teach with, and she bought it back then. And the book is now worth, the value of it, this book now is valued at about 15 grand. So I can't bring the book to class, I just can't. But in my research, in my being on these collectors lists and being part of, or making sure that I'm always in touch with the Joseph Albers Foundation, they have created these facsimiles of this book that go beyond this, that emulate this. One of them is an app that goes on the iPad that has and the book is nothing but student work from Yale. And all of the projects relate to the narrative. And so they created an app that you could have all these projects, you could change them any way you want, you could do the exercises. And then, about 10 years ago, the foundation decided with Yale to produce a mini version of that book. Not this one, but an expanded version of this one that emulates this one, okay? So I want to show it to you. Come forward. So I bought this book, and I do use it for class, and it's I think I paid $300 or $400 for this, but it's worth everything to be able to have it, to be able to use it in this class and share it with you. So this book is created just very much like the original that I showed you on screen. It's got a case, and what comes out of the case are the contents of the book. And there are two books. Look for there, okay? And one book has the narrative, it's all narrative, and the narrative contains these numbers, Roman numeral numbers that correspond to the second book, in this case, the colored plates. Got it? So all of these plates have been carefully, come closer if you can't see. So they're all numbered, and then after the number that you read or that you correspond relates to the plate, so you can talk to the two, and all of a sudden it's like everything comes alive. So I'm going to put the narrative away, and we're just going to look at the plates, because you're about to see how unoriginal I am, and how much that I have taught you has actually come from someplace else, and not from my little pea-brain head. So this is the student work of Joseph Albers that came from Yale. And these are the plates, okay? So take a look at this, and you see this and this. Watch this. Okay, this is where you're going to impress me. Tell me why. First of all, what do you see? What is the difference between this and this? Anybody?
This one looks darker.
This one looks darker, therefore this one looks lighter. What else? Other difference? Obvious. Just go for the obvious.
It's warmer.
Sorry?
The one that's on the orange is warmer than the one, well, it looks warmer, and it looks like it has more red in it than the one on the cyan.
What about saturation? Talk to me about brightness.
I was gonna say it's using the colors of the center, or it's using the center colors.
Hold
to
on,
make it-
don't go there yet. Tell me about brightness between these two.
The top one's brighter.
This is brighter, this is duller. This is darker, this is lighter, right? Now, tell me why.
The blue on the top next to the cyan will make the background plate look lighter
Why?
because it's a darker color.
Why?
'Cause-
No. Yes, but no. Not just that. Complements. Okay? A complement is going to make, the blue is going to make the orange look much brighter. The orange, on this orange, is next to a yellow, next to a brighter orange, which is going to make it look duller. This orange is on a lighter background, it's going to make it look darker. This orange is on a darker background, going to make it look lighter. So that when you lift it, you see that they are the same color. Okay? Do you see these two? These two are the same color. 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 In the original book, there is the red will lift up and show you. Again, tell me what is the difference between value and saturation value and hue, the difference between this and this. What are the differences you see?
Well, the bottom one next to you, that one's a darker background, the top one's a lighter background, and then,
Talk about this and this, because they're the same color.
It looks
What is the
brighter.
difference between this and this?
It looks brighter.
Okay, this
Yeah.
is lighter, this is darker. This is redder, this is bluer. Why? This is redder because it's on a bluer darker. This is bluer because it's on a redder. Got it? Remember that whole thing of color changes depending on its environment? That's all it's about, okay? Coming and going. So you have not original. No. Ready? Yep, I'm a fake, a fraud. Got it? This is a problem, which Albers would not have approved of. This is not a mistake in the original book, it is a mistake here. Why is it a mistake? David, what do you think?
I don't know.
Squint your eyes.
They're the same color.
Come forward. Take a
one's too
look.
dark and one's too bright.
Why is this a problem? Why is this a mistake?
Are the center squares the same color?
They are. They are.
This one
They are.
blends into that one, but it doesn't look like it goes into
Higher
that one.
contrast here, lesser contrast here. Got it? Do you see it now? This one needs to go a little bit darker, this needs to go, this needs to go a little bit, this needs to go a little bit darker, and this needs to go a little bit, this needs to go a little bit darker, this needs to go a little bit lighter to have that equal balance. Notice how equal contrast between light and dark, equal contrast, but not equal contrast here. So it needs to be adjusted. And that's where the big book was so important, because Albers would be there going, this is wrong, you have to change this, either make this darker, but it's not equal, which is why it costs so much to be able to do it. In the original, these two areas are covered. You see the difference. Okay? So, in the original, there's a white sheet of paper that covers this here so that you could see the difference. Again, same color. Here's your homework. These two colors are actually these two colors. These two colors are these two colors. Two colors look like one. Two colors look like one. Two colors look like one. Look at how different these two colors are. Look at how different these two colors are. Look at how similar they are here.
So wait, what color is that? Is that, what color is that?
That color is that color. That color is that color.
Okay, I got you.
These two colors are these two colors. These two colors are these two colors. Now, the earlier group took photographs of these two. Does anybody want to take a photograph of these and post them on Facebook for your classmates so you could study them? You want to photograph that? Oh, do one page at a time. There you go. And this one. One more. Take a look at this. Do you see how this color and this color are so different? Ready? Boom. You want to photograph that?
Yes, sir.
Hold on. These two colors are these two colors, these two colors are these two colors. Okay? Notice how different these two look. There's such a huge contrast between, but there's not a huge contrast here. And there. These two colors are these two colors. These two colors are these two colors. Okay? So, what I would do is go back to one color as two, it's in that structure. look at the examples that I've given you on Albers that are gonna be posted on Facebook and study them and come up with your own solution. Now, I'm not giving you a square size, I'm not giving you a baby size, or in this case, the twins that have to be completely different, but on mother and father, they have to look identical, okay? Think about what you've seen in here and how they have been created, and you're welcome to create your own, just so long as you can identify clearly that these two colors are actually these two colors. Sir?
We're just making one set of them, or are we doing the whole?
I'm gonna leave it up to you. Okay? You now have enough background and information experience to be able to make this happen. You just have to think. Questions? Sure?